I was stupid. In my last video, 5 early signs of a garbage anime protagonist, I said, hey, if this gets 15,000 likes, I will upload 5 early signs of a garbage anime villain within a week of it hitting 15,000 likes. Well, apparently you guys liked it. I don't know. It hit 15,000 likes right away. So here you go, fam. 5 early signs of a garbage anime villain. This is a completely educational, non-meme whatsoever video that is purely to help you in your quest to picking out absolutely trash anime villains right from the start. You'll find it's much easier than you think after you see these 5 clauses that are nearly invisible to the naked eye that once elucidated will shine forth on somehow most anime villains. But that's not the point. The point is this is purely as a public service video to help and not to completely just mask this as an excuse to sarcastically insult anime villains or a thinly veiled excuse to crap over anime, not for any particular reason aside from the fact that it's a hell of a lot of fun. Okay, good. Well, it's time to up the ante. When this video hits 20,000 likes, within a week from hitting that, or perhaps earlier if I never hit that, I will be making a video, 5 early signs of a garbage anime fight. And I actually think that's going to be a pretty dope one. So like away, fan base, and let us begin with early sign of a garbage villain number 1. As you are all aware, before meeting the main villain ever, you always end up meeting his army of cronies, because what villain can properly do anything without an army of cronies? You get what I'm saying. Now, the sign that it's a garbage villain is simply due to what the cronies add to the story. First and foremost, if there's a number of cronies, that's a bad sign. The 9 Akatsuki, the 7 Sins of Purgatory, the Arashion 6, the 9 Gates of Hell, the 10 Espada, the 13 members of the Phantom Troop, the 10 Commandments, the 7 Homunculi, the Sensui 7. If the villain group tells you the amount of villains in the group in the name of the group, well then I can't commend the leadership skills of whoever's running the thing. It's like this elite group of several people that operate in the shadows, and they're all badass, and they're so badass and secret, in fact, that we're going to tell you exactly how many of them there are so they can match up exactly equally to all of the main characters that fight them. They all lose one-on-one fights, and then the main character takes down the main bad guy. I see this as relatively counterproduction in the art of stealth, and it does not bode well if the main villain thinks it's a pretty wacky, cool idea to put a number in the title of his group. But in any case, that's not the only thing we can see from the cronies. You can immediately tell if there's a little bit wrong fishy with the villain if, you know, they end up fighting the guys in the group one at a time, or at least in pairs or whatever the hell. Obviously, the number in the group is to scare everyone else because each of them is so powerful. In fact, more often than not, on an individual level, a single member from one of these groups would be able to take out throngs of good guys. Well, imagine putting them all together in one place. The main villain is so smart and stealthy that it'll only send them one at a time, Power Ranger style, to defeat the good guys. And honestly, they're defeated by teamwork and stuff. So great plan there, main bad guy. Then the main bad guy secretly is more powerful than all of them put together, so he didn't really need them, which begs the question why he originally had it them. And that's because he didn't want to get his hands muddied in the dirty work of the world. Shut up, main bad guy. If you're sending out your cronies individually to die, but it doesn't actually bother you because you're secretly way stronger than all of them put together, for shame. I mean, literally, I don't know what's going through the guy's head. For the same exact price, he could have been a relatively good guy, still be overpowered, and then by default amass a harem of anime women by his sides to defeat the forces of evil. But there's more that you can learn about the cronies. More often than not, if the crony is around purely to hype the abilities of the main bad guy, then you didn't really need the crony there at all, and he was just there to hype the main bad guy further. This main bad guy is walking around with a hype squad, a literal group of elite doofuses to purely flex on the haters. I mean, in like the 7 Deadly Sins, when Galand first fought the Sins power level averaged at around 3,000 each, and Galand had a power level of like 26,000. He completely obliterated them. And then, of course, he was secretly the weakest of the 10 Commandments all along, and then every Sin manages to get crazy power boosts, way overpower all of them, and bam! Demon King, 500,000 power level. Yeah, Galand was really helpful, wasn't he? Or you have someone like Aizen in Bleach, and his epic group of Espada, each with a number ranking them in power from lowest to highest. And then he kind of just left a bunch of them in Hueco Mundo to die off fighting some of the captains that were there while he invaded the human world. Now, if he's already ranking them them consecutively from weakest to strongest, and they're fighting them, taking them down one at a time. Of course, none of the Espada thought it was a good idea to team up against the Soul Reapers, but hey, I'm not the tactical mastermind here. And it's not even that Aizen was stupid in this regard. Aizen's a freaking genius. He didn't need the Espada. They were just kind of there to make the fights cooler. He could have just invaded the human world with his entire group of Espada, and then, oh my god, Ichigo, Byakuya, Kampachi, and all the other guys that were there are going to be trapped in Wako Mundo until they find a way out, while everyone is on his side to deal with them. But no, they're just to flex, so therefore, it's much cooler if they have individual fights. So that is side one of a potentially garbage anime villain. Keep an eye on the cronies, but now let's get into the meat and potatoes of the man himself. I don't say man because I'm sexist, I say man because there are very few anime women that are actually main villains. 2, if the main villain is actually an anime woman. Now, not trying to insult anyone here by saying this, but let's be frank, I made a list of the top 10 anime villains, and I also had like 20 honorable mentions. Not gonna lie, don't think any were women, which is very sad. Gender equality is extremely important and must be stressed. So therefore, I think it's crucial to say that anime women should have the right to be amazing villains as well, but they're not. They're like, oh, here's an epic anime woman villain. Kaguya! Yeah, that's right. Literally farted out of Kishimoto's butt just because he didn't want Madara to be the main villain or something. Early signs of a garbage anime villain. If they pop out of nowhere with zero hype, but secretly, they're the alien goddess, overpowered creature that will take over the planet with their insane abilities and shiz. But of course, there is one exception to this. An exception where an anime villain can actually be both good and a woman. And that is if they were secretly in love with the main character, and it doesn't even need to be so secret. The main villain and recreators, as well as S-Death from Akame ga Kill, show that with spades. Strong women loving the main character, or something along those lines. So, it's not that we have no epic anime villain women, but it's usually a telltale sign that it's not going to be the most wonderful villain on the face of the planet. I'm not trying to be sexist here or anything. I am just, once again, advocating gender equality, saying that women have the right to be terribly horrible anime villains as well, and I want to see women being destroyed by the main characters in extremely brutal ways. That didn't come out right. Anyway, moving on, sign number 3, and once again, this is a bit of a conglomerate early sign of a garbage anime villain, and it's anything that involves building up the villain's ideology. So now, there are some really epic villains with really cool psychologies and ideology. But unfortunately, the vast majority do not fall under those exact guidelines. If the main villain is actually related to the main character because he was either trained by the same master, or he was the master, or he was the wayward student, or he was his father, or his uncle, or his stepbrother's pet goat, you know there's a problem. You have this massive world with this probably underdog protagonist that's gonna try to claw his way up from the very bottom where no one expected anything of him. Surprise! The main villain all along is literally just like him to some degree. Let's look at some villains in Naruto. Pain, trained by the same master. Madara, from the same clan as the other main character. There we go. We got both main characters to have their step cousins attempt world domination. Lovely. Who's the main villain in the 7 Deadly Sins? Well, is it Meliodas' father? What? That's like the craziest coincidence ever. But it gets better. Why did the villain become evil? This is again part of the upbringing, and an early sign of a garbage anime villain is if his reasoning to go off the hinges, off the wall, nutso, is not exactly something that would befall most people in their exact situations. Once again, let's look at Naruto for a moment. Pain's friend died, so because that's very sad, he decided world domination. Madara was just a humble dude that didn't feel like the Uchiha clan were being treated fairly in the Leaf Village. World domination time, boys. Obito sacrificed himself for his friend for the good of the world, and then it turns out that the person that he wanted to save most ended up dying. Well, did his waifu just die? Well then, I think that calls for world domination, ladies and gentlemen. World domination in general is a bad sign. It's a way to say the universe effed you, so it's time to F the universe, and it's not exactly a logic that most of us follow. I lied. That's a logic that way too many of us follow, unfortunately. But it shouldn't be. But now, it doesn't only apply to villains that decided they wanted to take over the world because that one time they stubbed their toe was way too painful, and it forced them to become evil, and they have some crazy reasoning as to why that works out. But it applies to any villain who has that exact same ideology. You have some dope villains like Stain from My Hero Academia. Due to this powerful ideology that caused his view of the world to warp into something different, he had a different view of what makes makes a hero. He followed this path of his with such an intense passion, his pure willpower alone was enough to terrify the heroes detaining him after he was defeated. That is a powerful ideology for a villain. It's a great reason for him to do what he's doing. Not to say that I fully agree and can condone the idea of killing good people because they're not good for the right reasons. Not exactly what I'm trying to push here, fam. But then you can compare him to other villains in the series like, I don't know, Tomura. Tomura's a pretty great villain, and that's all lovely, but ask him his motivations and it might give you a telltale sign of what he's about to become. So Tomura, what do you want to do? Well, I want to kill All Might because he's good and I'm evil. Wow, Tomura, very cool. But All For One was the guy training you. What does he plan on doing? Oh, he just wants to destroy the world or take it over or make evil reign supreme or whatever. Very epic ideologies right here, fam. And it's not at all an early sign of a garbage villain, because that's not what this video is. This video is not pointing at specific villains saying why they're garbage. But if they're evil for the sake of evil, or if they want to take over the world because they want to take over the world, not a good sign at all. Unless it's Ryder from Fate Zero, he has full right to want to take over the world, and not only do I approve of his actions, but I condone them. If you are like Ryder, you too deserve to take over the world and cause world domination, but not because you're evil for the sake of evil. Evil for the sake of evil is bad. So Kaguya showing up last minute is trying to wipe everything out? If you ask the Demon King from Seven Deadly Sins, yo Demon King, why are you making such a mess trying to destroy everyone? And he answers, because I'm the Demon King. You know, that is not a good sign. You gotta take the Scooby-Doo approach a little bit. In Scooby-Doo, every single episode, the gang goes to some new place and there's some masked hoodlum going as destroying shiz or whatever the hell he decides to be doing. Now, you have a ton of characters in the series. You have the evil hermit that tries to get visitors away. You have the extremely rich guy that's trying to take over the land. You have the angry hobo with anger management issues. And you have Steve, your regular nice guy that invites them in and buys them coffee. Well, the bad guy's gonna be Steve. I know, pretty mind-blowing, right? The rest is just like evil for the sake of evil. Not Steve. Steve avoids that entire problem and is one of the greatest villains in all of anime. In fact, he would have probably even gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids and that dumb dog. But sometimes they do have crazy cool ideologies, a crazy cool psychology backing up what they're doing. However, even so, that does not completely save them. This is an early sign of a garbage anime villain. A terrible ideology, a horrible psychology, evil for the sake of evil, bad motives, yes. But even with all the right motives, and even with no hype and not necessarily related to the main character, if everything was part of their plan, sorry fam, that is not how it works, and I do not relate to you. Except for Aizen. You're amazing, and I do relate to you. I made a whole video on Aizen. He's amazing. Check it out. Not the point. If everything was secretly part of your evil plan, then nothing was. I don't think that's how that line works, but we're gonna go with it anyway. I knew you would take 3 steps forward on this very day, and I have planned this trap 14 years ago, expecting your arrival right now. But how did you know? Because I guided every moment in your life, making you just as strong as you are now, so that you could be here taking these 3 steps, and I am very cool. But how is that possible? Silence! I do not need to answer questions from you fools! Not a good sign for an anime villain. Want to know a way better approach to the exact same scenario, but changes it all into a much better light? I have planned out your entire life since your very birth, knowing that you would take these 3 steps exactly right now, here today, at this exact power level you're at, because I pitted every opponent against you to make you just as strong as you could possibly be, to have the most epic fight against me where you just barely win. And then when the main character says, but how did you know? If you would have gone with the generic silence fool or because I am very cool answer, not a good sign for a villain. But if you would say, oh, how did I know? Because it's me, Dio! That is top tier signs of an anime villain. And I know that's not exactly what this video was supposed to be, but I just had to talk about a very easy way to get out of the entire situation. And if you really want to add some spice, when the main villain says how he planned out your entire life, the good guy's supposed to say, Nani? And then the bad guy can skip right to Watashi wa Dio desu. And then, you know, it evolves into an epic battle, but not every anime is JoJo's, and I understand why not every anime is amazing to that degree of writing. However, if he planned out your entire life and he's not going to give you a logical way how he did it, not a great sign of a villain. Black Zetsu, screw yourself. And as far as the 5th and final early sign of a garbage anime villain, their powers. I know this sounds generic and very surface level stuff. I'm skipping all the themes, not talking about any of the philosophy of the series. No psychology, no ideology, no no astrophysics or whatever the hell else I talk about in my analysis videos where I make believe I'm smart and whatever. No, pure basic powers. If the guy could drop a meteor, that's actually really cool. So I'm gonna give Madara a pass on that one. But if you're a guy like Larcade from Fairy Tail, or in fact, speaking of Fairy Tail, let's use that as a prime example of this one. I don't want to go far off topic here, but some powers are so broken, it doesn't make sense how they're defeated. And it's not like I want to make fun of Fairy Tail or anything here. It's not exactly what I'm being paid for, but it's a prime example as far as the Spriggan 12 when the power levels get out of control. Larcade Dragneel from Fairy Tail is part of the Spriggan 12, this extremely overpowered enemy organization, and you know immediately that there's an issue because the Spriggan 12 just there to hype up Zareth. Very cool Fairy Tail. Again, not the point. I think that enemy got the point. Larcade's abilities include, you know, having everyone within a certain radius of him go into such major orgasms that they cannot seem to fight. That is correct. Of course, he immediately runs into battle against like 3 women, and all 3 of those women all of a sudden start squealing and breathing heavy, and they fall on the ground, and they're touching themselves in weird places, and Larcade is one of the greatest villains in anime. I take that all back. His other incredible moves include making everyone around him suffer from hunger. So since they're hungry, all the anime characters around him, mostly women as we've already established, start licking each other and chewing on each other and taking off each other's clothes to bite each other in better place. I don't know. Larcade is one of the greatest villains of all time. What am I saying here? I don't even know how I'm insulting the guy. And you'll even notice a pretty funny trend here. One of the Spriggan 12 is this assassin dude, and he has the ability to trap everyone around him into this little pocket dimension that he holds in his palm, completely destroying them and defeating them without even needing to fight them. No matter how powerful they are, no matter who they are, blammo! Yes, he only does it once because otherwise it would be crazy OP, but they're all trapped in little pocket dimension. Since it's so overpowered and ridiculously strong, I don't see how anyone can ever defeat him. In fact, I think he might be able to defeat all of Fairy Tail. However, he's extremely shy, and if he sees a woman that is not fully clothed, he'll be too embarrassed to fight, close his eyes, and the woman will then defeat him. Spoilers, Lucy was completely naked and managed to teleport right in front of him. Epic win for Fairy Tail. Other crazy overpowered characters from this Spriggan 12 include this guy that can look into all of the opponent's memories, or even his friend's memories, and every foe that they've ever fought is now resummoned back, maybe not at their full power, but at most of their power, that they would have to fight them again. So that means, even though a bunch of the Spriggan 12 are actually defeated, he can then resummon their memories from the dead, and they're basically as strong as they were before, annihilating all their progress. Probably one of the most overpowered broken abilities ever that most anime wouldn't even dare touch. But Fairy Tail is so epic, they came up with a villain so strong. Now, this villain decided to go hand-to-hand fight some opponents, and not to annihilate the guy. Yeah, hand-to-hand fights with the guy who has the most overpowered ability ever, and could just sit in his castle, making an endless army of foes they've already defeated, constantly revive, and continue to fight them. Very cool. But the problem isn't even that he had to fight them hand-to-hand, because we know that he had to be defeated eventually. The power is, once you introduce any ability so strong, there's no way you can get around it. Like Irene, for example, from Fairy Tail. Urza's mother. Crazy powerful wizard, one of the Spriggan 12, one of the 3 strongest of the Spriggan 12, in fact. She used a single move that rearranged the entire continent they were standing on to destroy the enemy battle lines and to get certain people in different places. Now, if you want to talk OP broken abilities, you don't get much more than that. She did it with a snap of the fingers. How ridiculous is that? Well, unfortunately, she was in the range of Larcade, who caused her to start orgasming, so she couldn't really continue the fight and she had to retreat for now. Wow, Fairy Tail! That's just next level. Now, I'm not making this an excuse to bag on Fairy Tail. I just feel like the Spriggan 12 were built to be so overpowered with such wacky abilities. All of them really have the potential to be an absolutely trash anime villain. Not saying that they are, I'm just saying these characteristics are sometimes telling. I mean, there's the woman that can trap everyone in the world, stop time, walk up to them and stop time and annihilate them, but Natsu was so strong he was able to light time on fire and defeat her. Yep, anime logic 101. Don't make the villain too overpowered with such broken abilities that it doesn't make any sense how they're defeated. One of the early signs for a garbage villain is if the ability is that broken. But again, this is not to bag on Fairy Tail. At the end of 7 Deadly Sins Season 1, which is a series that I actually do like a lot, just like Fairy Tail, being that I'm one of the few anime YouTubers that praises Fairy Tail for the things it does well, Hendrickson gets Grey Demon abilities. And of course, Grey Demons end up completely useless in the scheme of things. But with his Grey Demon ability, he manages to use this black snow thingo that anyone that comes in contact with this black powder thing automatically automatically dies. Yes, that is a very broken power. No, he does not use it on the 7 deadly sins. He only does it on nameless characters that die, and it's like, we don't really care. But it actually hits Hawk, the pig, the mascot of the series. Hawk dies. This is so sad. Good news is, Elizabeth managed to unlock a power that can bring everyone dead back to life. Yes, Elizabeth, that ridiculous power-up of yours actually was not your fault. It was because of the stupidly broken power of the anime villain that not only do we never see anyone else use this black snow powder thing again, even though Hendrickson's power level at that point was like highballing 5,000 and the Demon King's is like 500,000. But Elizabeth never uses this revive from the dead thingo again either. I mean, you just can't win with stupid powers. Unless you're Fairy Tail. Because most of them manage to get a Whammon naked somehow. And that definitely tips the scales to Fairy Tail's favor in the writing of brilliant anime villains with brilliant powers. I hope you did enjoy this video. Hope you learned something new and can broaden your horizons for the future, sharpening your mind with pure facts and no memes. And I hope you could take satire, because if not, that was probably terrible. Subscribe if you enjoyed. 20,000 likes and you get 5 early signs of a garbage anime fight within the week. And remember to stay weird, fam.